Hello. Okay, well, I guess I'm next. Hello. My name is Fredo Rivera, and I am a very soon-to-be associate professor of art history. And I just want to say thank you to a lot of folks. It's an honor to be here at the Des Moines Art Center and speaking at the Des Moines Art Center. I've been a huge fan, and ever since I was an undergraduate at Grinnell and first visited the Des Moines Art Center, I've always told people this is one of my very favorite museums in the world. I think it's a unique and special place, the architecture, the collections it holds, the importance of it to the arts community here as well. And I will say, as a Des Moines resident, I am a very proud member of the Des Moines Art Center, and I encourage those who are Des Moines residents to, if you have the financial means, to join being a member, because this institution does a lot for the community beyond displaying art in the fantastic ways that it does. For today's lecture, I'm going to provide a broader art historical context for engaging with Haitian art. And a lot of the examples I show won't necessarily align with what's upstairs in the galleries, but I think will give us a broader context to understand the foundations of Haiti and its importance to modernity. As I was preparing this lecture, I drew from my own personal research and teaching, which together have contributed to small publications and major exhibitions focused on Haiti specifically. What I hope to highlight today is that Haiti can be understood as a sort of hearth for Caribbean art, a field that has come into being in the past couple decades. As scholars like anthropologist Deborah Thomas and others have highlighted, the Caribbean, a region defined by an archipelago and surrounded coastlines, is emblematic of global modernity and its ambitions. Haiti and its successful revolution at the height of the Enlightenment became an important crossroads for considering modernity and its constituents. Interestingly enough, so much of Haiti's artistic legacy has ended up here in Iowa, making our place here in the Prairie an important center for studying Haitian art and hence Caribbean art history. And again, I want to highlight that these collections are going to provide us a sort of a broader art historical context that I think will enrich the way we could think about Haitian art as it's being presented in the Des Moines Art Center and more broadly at the Waterloo Center for the Arts. Now, my interest in Haitian art first formed when I was a college student at Grinnell, where I wrote a senior thesis considering the role of Haiti for African-American artists in the early to mid-20th century. Many Black artists in the US, such as William Edward Scott, traveled to Haiti, and as art historian Krista Thompson highlights, Scott, an artist from the Midwest, received a Julius Rosenwald Fellowship for a residency in the island nation, where he spent more than a year producing over 100 artworks, paintings, watercolors, and drawings. In this painting we see here, very prominently, the vista of the mountaintop, the Fort Citadel, which I'll return to shortly in this lecture. Now, Haiti and its meaning to the broader African diaspora, and specifically to African-American artists at the height of the Harlem Renaissance, is perhaps best evoked in the works of artist Jacob Lawrence and his inaugural painting series, the Toussaint Louverture series. In this specific piece, we see the birth of Toussaint, in a series that narrates the Haitian Revolution over 41 paintings, beginning with the colonization of the Americas. These works, including the prints he produced later in his career, I must admit, are fantastic. And I could spend the full 30 minutes just talking about these, and that's very tempting to do. But instead, I want to encourage folks to see them yourselves. Actually, these prints, he did these prints later in his career, 15, based on the original 41 paintings. We're very blessed to have recently acquisitioned all 15, and they are going to be traveling to Waterloo, and another example of a collaboration between Sean Page and Patricia Moise to put the history of the Haitian Revolution as represented by this canonical African-American artist in dialogue with the Haitian art in the museum. As an undergraduate, I had the opportunity to consult the original paintings that are located in New Orleans at the Amistad Research Center in Tulane. And as I was studying these artworks of various artists who either traveled to Haiti or did artwork about Haiti, Jacob Lawrence did not travel to Haiti, but Haiti was sort of seminal in what became his depictions of African-American migration. I ended up arguing that Haiti served as a trope of resistance within an African-American lexicon, and that became the broader focus of my thesis. In our moment today, I can't help but look at this print strategy as one representing a deliberate and planned resistance, while also presenting the eventual rise of Toussaint Louverture as the general of and leader of the Haitian Revolution. And the Toussaint Louverture, you can actually see him here, And he is being depicted in the company of three chiefs initially of the Haitian Revolution, Jean-Francois, Bessot, and Jeannot. And he was at that point serving as their aide until he became eventually sort of the leading general of the revolution. The original paintings contain long titles, whereas the prints that he produced later in his career contain these very short titles that do a really beautiful job at sort of evoking what he was trying to evoke within the imagery of the broader series. Here we have an image of the coachman, which depicts Toussaint Louverture when he is within the system of slavery in colonial Saint-Domingue, then the name of Haiti. He has a position where he's overseeing other workers. So he's enslaved, but he has a privileged position within the context of enslavement where he's seeing the other workers, and this is sort of indicating sort of a sense of alliance that he has with them that leads them to sort of congregate together and fight against their enslavers eventually. So this print is sort of showing that fundamental moment where Toussaint is coming into consciousness prior to the beginning of a revolution. As art historian Erica Moai James writes, we have no accurate depiction of Toussaint. And here we're looking at what is perhaps the most famous image from the Toussaint Louverture series. And most of our understanding of images of Toussaint Louverture were made posthumously, and made particularly from a descriptive account, and then here is the print version, were made primarily from written accounts at the time that were, as Erica James noticed, sort of looking at Toussaint at the moment of his capture when he was emaciated. So there's a lot of questions of biases that exist in these written accounts and what do the visual depictions mean. Erica James writes, nonetheless, this specific print, which is printed a good 30 years, almost 30 years following his capture and murder, essentially, this print ends up becoming an important source for what becomes these sort of modern day images that Jacob Lawrence is producing of Toussaint Louverture. And Erica Moai James, she writes that this particular print by Nicolas Eustache Morin is widely regarded as the truest representation of the revolutionary leader in print and referenced widely in the works of artists from Jacob Lawrence to Edouard Duval-Carrier. In considering some of the earliest representations of leaders in Haiti, such as these two, among the earliest known reproductions of the revolutionary leader, James suggests we need to quote-unquote decolonize time, which she means to better understand how these images can emphasize the generative position of post-revolutionary Haiti, where value was bound to conceptual meaning through times and spaces where leaders, fluent in and open to redeploying the visual codes of the day. And to better yet, understand the importance of such images within a contemporary global imaginary, which I think is the focus of her argument in her article, looking at these sort of older portraits. How artists in Harlem or in the Midwest would have come to see these 19th century images in a new light in that 20th century moment, and then thinking about how artists are thinking about these representations today, which I think are very prevalent throughout the sort of the broader spectrum of Haitian art. In many ways, these artworks, like the Haitian Revolution itself, explore a very modern notion of freedom. In the context of the Enlightenment, the Haitian Revolution challenged racist tropes of the colonial Americas as the formerly enslaved fought for and won their literal freedom. In the context of the 20th century US, where Black soldiers returned from world wars to harsh realities of Jim Crow violence and segregation, in this print, which shows both determination and sacrifice, Lauren envisions a critically new world where Blacks fought for their freedom within one of the most repressive regimes of slave exploitation. So the meaning of the Haitian Revolution for African American artists in this sort of early 20th century period was very much connected to their own systemic oppression that was existing within segregation. And that really gave Haiti the power of its meaning. The legacy of the Haitian Revolution as a trope of resistance and marker of freedom is also evident in more canonical examples of neoclassical painting in the early 19th century of France. Some paintings, such as William Guillaume Lethier's Grand in 1822, The Oath of the Ancestors, heralds the Haitian Revolution. As a Creole artist, originally from the island of Guadeloupe and based in France, Lethier presents the aftermath of the revolution, where the figure of God literally anoints the generals Alexandre Pétion and Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who joined forces in 1802 to help defeat the Napoleonic forces. This was after Toussaint's capture. Here, Guillaume Lethier is providing an image of the birth of a nation, one that he gave to the Haitian government. Predating Guillaume Lethier's painting is the 1797 painting by Anne-Louise Giraudet, the Russie Triosson, portrait of Jean-Baptiste Bellay, a former slave of Saint-Domingue or colonial Haiti, who served in the National Convention, or essentially as a legislator for the French state, following the French Revolution in a brief period during the Haitian Revolution when Napoleon granted citizenship to folks on the island. Behind Bellay is a bust of abolitionist writer Guillaume or Abbé Raynal. I could also spend 30 minutes alone talking about this piece. This is a piece that many articles have been written about. It is a piece of art historical conjecture. And I think it's a rich piece to sort of think about the representation, particularly of prominent Black figures in this Enlightenment moment. I will say at very least at Grinnell College we have a really beautiful painting by the artist William Villalongo, or really beautiful mixed media work by the artist Villalongo that's a direct reference to this piece and shows the way a contemporary African American artist is engaging with this visuality quite beautifully. At very least, this gives us a picture of how Haiti could be understood as very central to the context of the Enlightenment. Such ideals would become evident in art following the Haitian Revolution, most notably that of the Kingdom of Haiti, formed in the north in a brief period when Haiti was split into two states, and led by General Henry Christophe in the north. In this gorgeous depiction of his son, we see how new leaders were drawing from discourses of the Enlightenment, yet reshaping them in new and powerful ways. They were also encountering incredible bias from their global contemporaries, while strategically drawing from European models and fashion. It is fascinating to look at Christophe's self-fashioning today, as scholars reconsider the leader's legacy, which look to models of European monarchy while creating academies and emphasizing the arts. Here we see a proud and dignified leader, as both general and monarch. Painter Richard Evans was brought to Haiti from Britain to help lead an art academy, and the few paintings of this era provide new imagery for understanding a defiantly Black modernity. Recently, contemporary artist Edouard Duval-Cartier, based in Miami, Florida, likewise reconsiders Christophe's legacy through large-scale portraiture. In Duval-Cartier's 2019 charcoal rendering, Henri Christophe ou le dernier danseur taino, the leader emerges from the right on an exterior raised throne with a curtain as if to overlook the new nation. Comprised of sharp, precise lines and surrounded by fantastic patterns and textures, the king is met by symbolic apparitions of his masses. To his left are two small Taino figures dancing, while an audience of figures representing the tribes of Africa watch in the background. I think this connects beautifully to the question earlier about the connection of the Taino and sort of African traditions in the creation of voodoo, but also in the creation of Haitian power. The massive 84-inch by 84-inch rendering is doubled in the works in a twin work holding the same title. The piece appears as a monocratic negative of the delineated charcoal rendering, with two layers of plexiglass forming a shiny black background. The clear layer above the plexiglass is engraved in a manner identical to the charcoal rendering and filled with white paint. In these works, Duval-Cartier imagines the figuration of the famed Haitian leader. The viewer encounters at an aggrandized and spectacular scale the fantastic stage of Christophe's dominion. Edouard depicts the architectures and spatialities of Christophe's reign to signify the magical and the divine. Images and renderings of Christophe are rife with both stereotypes and pointed political critiques. Such representations began during the time of Christophe's reign. For example, Duval-Cartier's rendering of Christophe are based on the 1811 print by artist Dridier. In the print, the leader wears elaborate, luxurious vestments and a laurel wreath upon his head. Christophe stares directly at the viewer with his right arm angled downward while pointing forward, or to the left. Art historian, again, Erica James, leading expert on Black portraiture in the Caribbean, suggests that the 1811 Dridier print illustrates the concerted effort to represent Christophe not as a person, but as a type, a racially indeterminate mimic man, outfitted in British-style royal finery, decidedly inappropriate for the climate, self-absorbed, distant from the people, and indifferent to how he was perceived, end quote. James challenges such popular representations in the broader article, relating them to mischaracterizations that permeates across time and prohibits more complicated reading of Christophe's regime. In Edouard's work, such caricatures become the basis for new imaginings, or for new art histories of the nascent Black Republic. Both images and literary recountings help provide counter-narratives regarding the reign of Henri Christophe. This translates to understandings of modernity within post-revolutionary and 19th century Haiti. As scholar J. Michael Dash writes, quote, "The impulse was towards the future and not dwelling in mythical origins. If anything, Haiti was seen as the avant-garde that would rehabilitate the black race," end quote. The image of the famed Citadelle La Ferrière in Malo, Haiti, a structure built by Christophe during his 14-year reign, would contribute to such a rehabilitation, represented by artists as an architectural marker of modernity. In Duval-Carrier's mixed media painting, The Kingdom of This World, which you see to the left, a pair of eyes loom above an oval-shaped rendering of a landscape featuring the citadel. The central scene, surrounded by painted aluminum frames with quaint stenciled designs, draws directly from Duval-Carrier's series of engravings regarding Alejo Carpentier's 1949 magical realist novel, The Kingdom of This New World. For those who aren't familiar, Alejo Carpentier is one of the most important magical realist and surrealist writers from Cuba in the early 20th century. The novel itself provides a characterization of Christophe's regime through the eyes of T. Noel, a former slave from the Plaine du Nord who returns to Haiti from eastern Cuba following the rise of Christophe. In these works, Duval-Carrier looks to the literary canon of the Caribbean to visualize the optics and architectures of Haiti's new regimes. Here, the citadel appears within a broader mountainous landscape, here. And the floating pair of eyes in the foreground is topped by a symbol of the crown. Artists, writers, and scholars alike have written about the symbolic grandeur of Haiti's most impressive structure, one of its most impressive structures. Our anthropologist Michel Rofe-Trio describes the fortress as Christophe's legacy of stone and arrogance, quote unquote. Historian Mary A. Renda suggests that while countless workers lost their lives in its production, quote, "the sheer enormity of its mass stood as a statement of Haitian will, independence, and defiance in the face of international racism," end quote. The fortress came to appear in many examples of literature and popular visual culture within Haiti and across the Caribbean region. And that's actually me right there. The infamy of the citadel is perhaps best expressed in its very form, as highlighted by architectural historian and critic Sybil Moholy-Nagy. Quote, "Instead of the usual succession of castmates, magazines, and galleries, here is a maze of enclosed battlefields connected by arched openings of totally irregular height and size," end quote. Moholy-Nagy focuses on the unusual forms and permanence of the defense structure, one which stands as unique within a New World context. Duval-Carrier's mixed media work recalls the complexity of the citadel. Imagination and contemplation are reflected in its rendering and the mask of eyes, while the oval is bordered by dots of dripping blood. The impressive structure appears within a broader Haitian landscape and imaginary as both violent and wondrous. The legacies and contradictions inherent within the construction of modernity, both from within and through global influences, would provide a thorough line throughout Haiti's history, where the visual became a realm to self-fashion and defiantly present a black politic. The way images were created, disseminated, and reconfigured outside Haiti still need further scholarship, as is evident in the unique case of Emperor Faustin Soulouque, who served as the president of Haiti for a couple years before becoming emperor in 1849 for a decade. My learning about the imagery of Soulouque came to being through the organization of an exhibition on the history of Haitian photography in South Florida over a decade ago. And this exhibition we believe to be the first exhibition to consider an entire history of photography for any Caribbean nation or territory. The exhibition was very broad in scope, considering artistic, documentary, and personal photography, and crafting a narrative about Haiti and its history. From within references photographic images, and you see that title From Within there. From Within refers to the photographic images created within or by Haitians, whether for other Haitians or for global consumptions. And From Without refers to the work of anthropologists, artists, occupiers, military forces, journalists, and others who were depicting Haiti from outside to various sort of means and politics. In our exhibition, we wanted to represent how photography served as an important tool for sharing Haitian modernity as much as it was a tool for misrepresentation and even exploitation. Our most prominent example, our earliest example of Haitian photography was that from within the coronation of Seluk. In our initial investigations for our exhibition proposal, we tried to identify the earliest example of Haitian photography. The earliest reference we could find was from the album Imperial, an 1852 suite of 12 lithographs depicting the leader Seluk and his elaborate coronation. Interestingly, the album included a reference to being based upon, quote unquote, daguerreotypes by A. Hartman of New York. These photographs have never been found. We tried desperately and looked everywhere to see if we could find these missing photographs these prints were based on. But they represent, but finding that these were based on photographs became a fascinating point to consider the role of images in disseminating an understanding of Haiti. For Seluk, he very deliberately created these prints to be sent to other world leaders to sort of show his prominence and grandeur. But interestingly enough, these images became fodder for racist representations, probably most famously by the well-known French printmaker Honore Daumier, who would use the image of Seluk, wildly transformed as a sort of representation of political corruption. The contested legacy of photography continues throughout Haiti's history. And as photographs became sources for artistic presentation at a political level, our exhibition included two particularly difficult images. These images are particularly difficult for Haitian audiences, which are significant in South Florida, and that is of the assassinations of Charlemagne Perrault in 1919 and the execution of Louis Drouin and Marcel Numa. And we actually gave these historic images special spaces within the gallery, and we actually enlarged the Charlemagne Perrault and created a space where people could respond to the image, because these images have become important, as I'll show in a couple of other examples, for modern and contemporary artists to sort of consider the sort of legacy of violence in crafting a new modernity. In the photograph of Charlemagne Perrault, we see this sort of inspiration that the well-known artist Philomé Aubin from Cap Haitien in the north receives from that in creating this painting that is based on the photograph. The photograph depicts the leader slain in front of the police headquarters in Cap Haitien in the north of the island. The image and legacy of the photograph is particularly profound and informs this painting in many ways. Perrault was a leader of the Cacao movement, which fought the US military during our invasion and occupation of Haiti from 1915 to 1934. After his killing, the US military put the slain leader on a door in the police station and reprinted the image and dispersed the image aerially throughout the island. This is the first known dissemination of an image, a photographic image via airplane. And disseminating the image of the slain leader did not have its intended impact of the populace, which was to invoke fear. Instead, it became an image of martyr. And I think this Aubin painting, among a host of other paintings and representations of Perrault, really emphasized the way this image, this violent photograph taken to install fear, gained a new meaning within Haiti to actually represent power and freedom. That this image of Perrault shows him in crucifixion as a Christ-like figure, as a martyr for Haitian freedom. Similarly, the photograph of the very public and violent assassinations of Drouin and Numa, two young men of the Haitian elite, becomes memorialized in a more contemporary context, here through urban art. The massacre, a display of power by then dictator Papa Doc, was also televised, while the images were similarly meant to evoke fear. And actually, the image of the assassination would frequently be shown on TV as sort of a reminder of that fear. Here, the mural artists recall and memorialize the two slain activists as they consider within the visuality of power how one finds freedom. Public art in the form of murals and urban painting has a long and understudied history within Haiti. Beginning in the 1980s, during the fall of the Duvalier regime, political art became very popular, especially in the capital of Port-au-Prince. As Pablo Butcher suggests, wall art became especially significant for a population where political censorship had long reigned and where much of the population remained illiterate. He writes, quote, "The painted images were all the more surprising and effective. Bold and immediate, they created an exciting narrative of Haiti's past and present and clearly demonstrated an overpowering sense of optimism about the future," end quote. Butcher played a key role in photographing these murals that inherently became ephemeral, either due to their fading or eventually being painted over. And I'm gonna try to wrap up because I'm close to 30 minutes and I only have a few more slides, but one of the things I wanna emphasize in thinking about these particular images, and here we have a really wonderful painting by Etienne Chavannes that shows the return of President Jean-Bertrand Aristide to Haiti, particularly when he comes to the north in Cap Haitien. Chavannes is particularly known for these very beautiful, lush paintings of public space in Cap Haitien. Some of the paintings are reflections of everyday life in the urban space and show the colonial architecture quite beautifully. Others depict very specific ceremonies or historical moments or events that also sort of bring the city to life in a very unique way. They provide a wonderful window into public life in Cap Haitien, revealing various cultural legacies and traditions, especially when you begin to read these paintings a lot more closely. I guess I want to close with the point that in thinking from the birth of the nation to today, perhaps a beautiful way to think about Haitian art in its variety of forms, whether artisanal, painterly, or as in this case, overtly political, the art strives to reflect on freedom and human agency. Even when that art is recording difficult histories, and that becomes very apparent in this painting of the slaying of famed agronomist and journalist Jean Dominique, who ran Radio Haiti. The art is full of potential, of fabulations that allow us to memorialize and recognize violence and imagine a world beyond that violence. And to me, this connects beautifully back to thinking about the Haitian Revolution and the freedom of the fighting for Haitian freedom. And that remains to today. The image of the Neg Maon is also an iconic image. This is a sculpture by the architect and artist Albert Magones that was created in the early 20th century. And the Neg Maon is a sculpture of a maroon slave blowing into the large seashell to sort of mark as a marker of the freedom of Haiti. This sculpture is very prominently located on Champ Mar near the former presidential palace within Haiti. And I show this image because this image reflects a really peculiar moment. I had been studying both the artwork and architecture of Albert Mangones, and when I visited Haiti in 2011, I told my friend Laura Wagner, we must visit the Neg Maon sculpture. It's iconic within Haiti. It is a particularly important representation in memorializing Haitian Revolution, the legacy of slavery, and sort of the fight for freedom. And when we visited in 2011, the aftermath of the earthquake was still very prevalent. And Champ Mar had become overtaken by makeshift housing, largely built out of blue tents. And to get to the sculpture, you had to sort of go through literally people's homes to find it in the center of the square. And one of the things that was fascinating, my trip to Haiti, I was then living in Cuba, happened to coincide with the context of the Ghetto Biennale, this well-known art event that had started in 2009. This was the second Ghetto Biennale that brought artists from around the world to Haiti. And this particularly, what you're seeing here, was a group of artists from Arizona that worked with artists within Haiti to yarn bomb the Neg Maon sculpture. And I bring this as an end example because when I wrote about this for FIU, I wrote about it somewhat critically because my experience was seeing these people living in this sort of makeshift situation, being like, why are the blonde? Blonde is the Creole word for white, but it also refers to foreigners regardless of their race. Why are these blonde coming in and, putting these recycled clothing and yarn on it? And the artists were thinking of this as making the Neg Maon into a superhero. But for a lot of the residents there, it was just more bewildering. And it has me thinking of what is the power and meaning of art and how can we think of the role of art within public space. So I'll close with one last note to transition to the wonderful talk by my colleague, Patricia Moise. In our exploration and research about Haitian art, I think in one sense we're trying to understand the history and legacy with greater detail because that has largely been lacking, but we're also trying to understand its contemporary relevance and how it connects to different publics. When I started doing research on the relationship of public art in Haiti for an exhibition at FIU, we were very much thinking of what does it mean to unmine and go through Haitian art collections when you're speaking directly to a Haitian community. And one important center for that has been the Little Haiti Cultural Center in the Little Haiti neighborhood in Miami. I have collaborated with them frequently, as does my colleague Patricia Moise. This is a photo of us in 2020 when Dr. Moise was first working in Grinnell and was one of the few Grinnellians I saw during the pandemic, came down to Miami, and we got to visit what ended up being, in Little Haiti Cultural Center, every year there's an exhibition called Global Caribbeans. And for 2020, they decided, since Basel wasn't happening, to look at all the previous Global Caribbean exhibitions and choose a work from the exhibition. So here we see a work by Emmanuel Marazier, who Sean had shared with us earlier. That's me telling me I'm at time. One of the nice things is they took works, they made them large, and they put them within the public walls of the cultural center so that people within a context of COVID could go and explore with Haitian art in a new way. But I think of this moment when me and Patricia we're in our first year of working together, also as a moment of thinking about what collaboration means. And I think the symposium relates to that sort of notion of collaboration. Collaboration does allow us to do more incisive research, but it also allows us to think about how these images from the past better connect to our present and future. So thank you.